crafty friends, it's Andrea from Prairie Sky DIY, your Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Manitoba. We are continuing with our watercolor fun. I created this today. I had a thought pop into my head this morning. I came into my craft room later in the afternoon to give it a try. I really like the way it turned out, so hopefully you do too. We have a piece of watercolor paper here. I've already punched out a couple of fish. I've had this guy in my craft room for a while, and just took it out of the cellophane bag today because I'm not sure. But you know, you see something, you love it, you want it, and then you promptly forget that you have it and don't use it. So we're using him today. You are going to need some paper towel, a water painter of some description. I'm using re-inkers. You can also use ink pads. I've got a block, and you're going to need a little bit of extra paper towel as well for our last little part of this technique. Now we're going to tape our little fishy friends, just a little dab, just to hold them in place because we don't want them doing their own thing. And then we're just going to get them swimming. Yeah, this guy's got some tape on it. I'm just creating a random pattern. Actually, I will flip this guy upside down. And then we'll do this last little guy up there. So I'm going to use my larger water painter first. Move the tape out of the way. And we're just going to soak our paper in water. You want to get your watercolor paper wet so that it's going to let our re-inkers fly and flow. Okay, but we don't want to get it too saturated around the fish. So we're just going to dab a little bit there. Oh, perils of long hair, it gets everywhere. And our colors that we're using are Pacific Point, Tahitian Tide, Starry Sky, and we're adding a little tiny bit of Granny Apple Green as well. So we're going to get our brush wet, pick up some of our ink, and then we're just going to paint. The beauty of this is that the more ink you add, the darker it'll get. The more water that you add, the lighter it'll get. And you can just keep playing until you're content. I am going to leave the ink on the ink block. Move this down a bit so you can see. This one is Tahitian Tide. Whoops. And we're going to kind of move it a little bit closer and then add a little bit more. We're going to blot some of our color off. It does get quite saturated quite quickly, so we do want to have a little bit of differentiation in the colors that we've got going on. A little bit of Starry Sky for the next one. Now there is a little bit of method to the madness, but with watercolor, really anything works and anything goes. That's a little dark. So I'll just, oh, all right. So this little guy decided he was going to slip. That's all right. We'll put him back where he was. I'm going to lighten this up a little bit at the top here. And if your adhesive starts to loosen, it's not a big deal. This is a very fluid, no pun intended, technique. We're here to have fun. There's no wrong in art. We're just going to do a little bit on that edge. I don't take myself too seriously when I'm creating. Add a little bit more water here to get rid of this big streak, and then we're going to do a little bit of a dab again. And we're going to add our green for this one. And we're just going to add the tiniest little bit, just to kind of give it that underwater kind of appearance. And again, not really loving that, so we're going to lighten it up some. Bring in a little bit more of our Tahitian Tide. Kind of going for a bit of an underwater-ish-esque feel with our greens and blues here. All right, we're going to call that done. And then we're going to do the big reveal. So grab our paper towel and blot again. Blotting also gives you a little bit of an opportunity to see where colors might be a little bit darker. You might want to add a bit of a touch of something else. And really, you could keep going for days. But at some point, it's a little streaky there. All right, at some point, you need to call it done, and this is the point we're calling it done. Okay, we're gonna keep our ink here, and we're gently going to pull off our fish. So these guys can be kept for another project. So you can see that some of the ink did end up seeping underneath. More so in some areas than others. And then we're just going to take the piece that we used and we're going to blot to kind of fill in our fish a little bit. And we're going to pick up some of the ink color and very gently kind of try to keep to the shape. If you don't want to get full of ink, you can absolutely put on a pair of dishwashing gloves or rubber gloves or whatever. And because this is watercolor, we can kind of control a little bit. I'm going to grab our finer brush here. And we're going to control a little bit of our texture. Sorry, a little bit mesmerizing. Also, filling it in a little bit makes it a little bit less stark, a little bit less white, or I guess off-white, because it's the paper is kind of a creamy color. It's a little bit abstract too, and sometimes I really love the abstract patterns. I don't know if you can hear, there's a plane or something flying overhead. And then we're going to grab our other piece of paper towel and just blot off. When it's completely dry, you could go over it with a marker or a white gel pen or something, just to kind of highlight the fish a little bit more, or your whatever shape you decide to use. Circles, squares, rectangles. It's all gonna be amazing, and it's really gonna have a different look with everything that you use. Okay, so put this off to the side. I'm probably gonna keep this paper towel, let it dry, and see what we can use it for in a future project. And we're just going to give it a quick little zap and then see what kind of card we can come up with at the end. Now this is quite saturated, so it might take a little bit longer to dry. And if there's a part that you don't love, you could just trim it off with your paper trimmer. When it does start to bend, I just like to flip it over until it flattens out, and then just keep repeating the process until it's a little bit less saturated. And then as it's drying too, if you're not loving how it's turning out, you can add more water. If it's too dark in a few places, you can add more ink. Or you can cover up the bits that you don't particularly love. So I've got a piece of Coastal Cabana here. This does not look like the right size. I'm gonna measure it again. This is not the right size. So there we go. And then we're going to trim down this guy so that it fits our card base. All right. There we go. Move our water out of the way so that it doesn't spill, she says with hope in her voice. Tape. Now, because I added water, I am going to add a little bit more adhesive than what I normally would, just to kind of stop our card from bending. Actually, do it this way. I'm going to grab our Coastal Cabana and our fish punch. We're going to punch out the small fish. Pop them up on a dimensional, so probably 2. They're small. And I'm using the mini dimensionals here from a leftover paper pumpkin kit. And I think I have to say, I'm really loving how this is turning out. We are going to grab another nautical theme. Let's see, your strength is an inspiration, I think, is the sentiment that we will use. And let's do that in, keep the blue theme going. We'll do it in Pacific Point. Straight down, straight up. And then if you wanted to, you could absolutely go ahead and decorate this some more with whatever bling and If you wanted to do ribbon, you could absolutely do that. I'm going to do just a few, I'll pop it off here, a few classic matte dots in black. 4, because that's what I've got left on this package. Yeah, I don't like it there. And then maybe we'll do 3 going up like an air bubble. There. All right, so we've got our odd number for bling, which is my personal preference. And another fun watercolor technique that we've tried. So it's basically masking with watercolor. And then I will create something with our little fishy samples coming up really soon, and I'll post that over on my Facebook page. So please feel free to head over to Prairie Sky DIY on Facebook, or Prairie Sky Crafters, which is my VIP group, where there's even more crafty goodness available for you to take a peek at. Thank you so much for watching. As always, I truly appreciate you spending a little bit of time with me today. Don't forget to hit subscribe below so you're notified every time a brand new video pops up. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.